On December 17, 1967, the Prime Minister of Australia walked into the ocean and was never seen again, and the official story has never held up. The accepted narrative is straightforward, almost mundane. Harold Holt, Australia's 17th Prime Minister, went for a swim at Cheviot Beach near Melbourne on a summer afternoon. The water was rough. He was a strong swimmer, everyone said so, but the currents were stronger. He drowned, case closed, accidental death. A tragedy, yes, but not a mystery. That's what the inquest concluded. That's what the history books printed. And for decades, most Australians accepted it. But I've read the contemporaneous reports myself, the ones filed by local police, the initial witness statements, the coroner's notes. And the more you sit with the details, the more that tidy narrative starts to fray. The accepted story, you see, depends on a chain of assumptions that don't quite link up when you pull on them. And once you start pulling, something darker emerges. Let's start with what we know for certain. Harold Holt was 59 years old. He was Prime Minister for barely 2 years. He was, by all accounts, a man of routine, a man who liked his afternoon swim, his tennis, his golf. On that December day, he drove to Cheviot Beach with 2 companions. One stayed in the car. The other, Marjorie Gillespie, walked with him to the water's edge. Then he waded in, and he didn't come back out. The search began within hours. Hundreds of people, police divers, helicopters, they found nothing, not a body, not a scrap of clothing, not a trace. The ocean, they said, had taken him. And that was the official conclusion. He'd been caught in a rip, pulled under and swept away by the currents. Strong swimmers drown all the time. It happens. It's tragic, but it happens. Except the coroner never saw a body. There was no autopsy. There was no physical evidence of drowning. The inquest was held anyway in the absence of remains, and a conclusion was reached. That conclusion rested entirely on circumstantial logic. He went in the water, he didn't come out, therefore he drowned. Logical, perhaps, but not forensic, not airtight. Now here's where the Cold War enters the picture. It's 1967. The Vietnam War is escalating. Australia is America's closest ally in the Pacific. And Harold Holt, whatever his domestic record, was a staunch anti-communist, a hawk, a man who'd committed Australian troops to Southeast Asia. He was valuable to Washington. He was also, it turns out, becoming a liability. Holt's government was fragmenting. He was facing political pressure from within his own party. There were whispers, quiet ones, but they existed, about his health, his stability, his grip on power. In the intelligence world, a weakened ally can become an unpredictable one. And unpredictable allies during the Cold War sometimes needed to be managed. Not killed, mind you, just removed from play. The timeline is suggestive. On December 17th, Holt was scheduled to attend a state dinner that evening. He was also, unbeknownst to most, about to face a major political challenge. His disappearance, whether accidental or otherwise, solved both problems immediately. The dinner was cancelled. The political crisis evaporated. The government continued seamlessly under a new leader. But the real question isn't whether Holt drowned, it's whether he was in the water long enough to drown. Marjorie Gillespie, the woman who was with him, gave a statement. She said he was in the water for only a few minutes before she called out. A few minutes. Not enough time for a strong swimmer to be caught in a rip and pulled under. Not enough time for the narrative to work. What happened in those minutes? That's the gap. That's where the official story needs you not to look too closely. And in my experience, covering conflicts where inconvenient truths were buried, that gap is usually the most important part. The real explanation, the one that fits the facts without requiring you to ignore evidence, is darker and simpler than conspiracy. Harold Holt, a man under immense political and personal stress, may have walked into that ocean with no intention of walking back out. A suicide disguised as an accident, deliberate, not accidental. And that explanation was buried because it was politically toxic. Think about what that means. A prime minister in the full glare of public office ends his own life. The political fallout would have been catastrophic. The questions would have been endless. So instead, the machinery of power did what it always does. It simplified the narrative. It made it an accident. It closed the file. It moved on. We'll never know for certain. There's no body. There's no confession. There's only the gap between what we were told and what the evidence suggests. And that gap, that silence, is itself a kind of answer. It tells you that someone somewhere had the power to shape the story, and they used it. The implications ripple forward even now. A prime minister vanishes. The official story holds. No one pushes back hard enough to break it. And the machinery of state learns a lesson. Control the narrative early, control it completely, and the public will accept almost anything. It's a template that's been used countless times since. It still is. Harold Holt's disappearance isn't really a mystery about what happened at Cheviot Beach that day. It's a mystery about power, about how power buries inconvenient truths, about how institutions protect themselves, about how a nation can collectively decide to stop asking questions. And once you see that pattern, you start seeing it everywhere. The ocean kept its secret, the government kept theirs, and Australia moved forward without ever really knowing what it lost that afternoon. Or maybe it did know. Maybe it just decided it was easier not to say. Subscribe. Every week we uncover the political deaths that shaped history and the silences that followed.